Hello, good morning. Today I'm joined by my guest, Danny Hall. He's the Managing Director of FSE Digital. Danny, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, David. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about something that makes most estate agents' heads sort of itch till they just explode because it's not something that they feel that they're normally sort of in control of. But I think before we get to that, maybe your kind of your background stories, quite your origin stories, we call it in the superhero films. I think is quite interesting because, of course, you come from a background of estate agency and kind of mortgage broking, but then you're now using the skills that you developed over there to help other agents. So you really have a deep understanding of that marketplace. Just give us a bit of a brief background of how you came into it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I will keep it brief. And yeah, I think that's the key thing. The background does help us really understand the estate agent, the pains that they have, if you like. So my background, I was a mortgage broker, but my family have always been in an estate agency. So I was a mortgage broker for many, many years. And then, like many mortgage brokers, well, I was actually doing my own marketing at the time, and I was doing the marketing for my family's estate agency that they worked in. I was just helping them out. It was a lot easier 15, 16 years ago, I will say. But like many mortgage brokers in 2008, I got out of the industry when it all got really, really difficult and
Yeah.
compliance become a real headache. And ultimately, I decided I wasn't sure if I just kind of got really lucky with my marketing across the state agency in the mortgage broking world, or if I actually knew what I did. So I decided to sense check it when I worked for an agency for a short period of time and realised pretty quickly I knew a damn sight more than most. And obviously the industry was even a bit like the Wild West back then. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on, should we say, in the digital marketing world. And yeah, I sort of from that point onwards, I sort of went and set up on my own and just started helping out a lot more SMEs or one-man bands and things like that. And naturally, through my knowledge and experience in the estate agency and the mortgage broking world and finance related, just naturally acquired lots and lots of clients over time in those fields.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when we talk about digital marketing, I suppose it covers all manner of anything from sort of throwing a Facebook ad out there to, when it comes to things like pay per click. These are all things that I think most agency owners and their marketing departments all feel that they should be doing. And like I said at the beginning of this recording, I think most of them don't understand it enough because I'll let you in on a little secret. As estate agents, we wear enough hats as it is anyway. So we're kind of juggling half a marketer's job, salesperson. We're obviously providing professional advice to the clients at the same time, progressing sales. We're doing it, all of that, all at
Yeah.
the same time. And we're expected to sort of be experts in the field. Now, I'd rather just be an expert in my local area and the properties that I'm selling. I think that's probably how I can be the best estate agent possible. I'm
Mhm.
quite happy to hold my hands up and say, marketing and digital marketing, particularly, I don't know enough about it and how it works to make it, to make, to actually make the spend on it go that extra mile. And I think that's part of it as well, isn't it? So it's not, there's a lot of agents out there who've thrown sort of money at the wall, if you like, just trying to see what sticks. That approach only going to get them so far, right?
Yeah, it is really difficult for estate agents because, I've been doing this for such a long period of time. There's been that bigger transition where they've come from the traditional means of marketing from an estate agent's point of view, and then you've seen digital or online really start to overtake that. So even down to leafleting and things like that, it's we've got clients that used to do hundreds of thousands of leaflets a month. Now they still do them, but they do them more sporadically because there is still a place for those traditional individuals, if you like. And one thing I'll say to all people, it's not all digital, and it's a marketing mix now. We're always very open with people about that. But you're right, from an estate agent's point of view, it's so difficult to quantify success and where it comes from because someone could come through the website and make an inquiry, and a digital marketing agency will probably quite quickly claim the credit for that. But that could have originated from a leaflet. It could have originated them from using them in the past. So it really is difficult for an estate agency owner to sort of really quantify the value. And one of the things that I think as well, you've also got from a digital point of view, you've got the portals, right? You've got Rightmove, you've got Zoopla. I know Rightmove is pretty expensive in its own right. So if you're just running a Rightmove account, you start to look at going, well, if I'm paying Rightmove, surely that they're taking a lion's share of the traffic if I'm there. But it's more about that picking up the new business, if you like. A lot of people don't go to Rightmove to find their agent; they go there to find their property. So that's where the other side. I think it's really differentiating between that and helping the estate agents understand, or the agents themselves understand, where are we best to invest our money.
Because if I were to turn around to you and say, right, well, what is the common goal that all agents who end up at your door looking for? Inevitably, we're going to be talking about market share,
Yeah,
and we're going to be talking about leads. And when we talk about leads, let's just be clear on that. We don't feel that we have a problem with buyer leads. It's normally sellers. We are looking for what we call valuation leads effectively. And I take it that's the sort of the majority of the focus.
yeah. So that's it. I think that's what really stands us in good stead as an agency because of my background and understanding of the industry. Um, you know, it's kind of like, I'm pretty showing my age here, but it's a bit like I don't know if you remember the Field of Dreams.
I do
So it's like,
remember it.
yeah.
If you
So if we
build it,
build it, they
they
will
will
come.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's the same thing with estate agent. If you've got the properties, whether it be the landlords or the vendors, you'll always find the buyers and the tenants, right? And
yeah.
I think a lot of agencies go on. It's quite easy to go and generate traffic from people looking for properties and people looking to rent. But that traffic isn't of value really to the estate agent because what we want as estate agents is new instructions, valuation requests, and ultimately that market share. But that's I think understanding that is one of the key things that kind of is a breath of fresh air for the agents that we work with.
And the fact that you kind of you already know what they're after, and we don't need to. We're not starting from scratch. There are a million and one digital marketing agencies out there. You can go and speak to any number of them, and they have what I'd call generic marketplace advice, but very few of them are focused directly on helping estate agents in a market that we all know and recognize.
Yeah,
You do too, right?
exactly that. I mean, that's one of the things. I think my agency, and this is one of the things what I think makes us a little bit different as well to others, is I always say to the guys here, like, we don't talk about vanity metrics, we don't talk about traffic, because with all due respect, any owner of an estate agent or any sales director or whatever it be, they wouldn't care if their traffic had plummeted by 1,000% if if their valuation request was up, if their new instructions were up, if their market share was increasing. And what we tend to find in this industry is, well, we talk about, oh, your bounce rate's down, which shows people are more engaged, or your traffic's up. But ultimately, what we live or die by is those new instructions, right? Whether it be sales, whether it be lettings, and that's the key. We make sure that it's what's coming out the other end is what matters, and everything in between is really just vanity metrics. Ultimately, yes, you do need them in the early stages to show progression, but there comes a point, right? You live or die by how many properties you've got in the books.
And your approach, Danny, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've seen speaking to agents that have used your services as well, it is quite a hyper-local approach in terms of the resources that you use in order to drive and generate some of those leads, are focused in on that local area. So we're talking about things like local area guides, etc.
Yeah.
But can you just expand on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so one of the things that we see a lot, especially with multi-location agents as well, and even like when I say multi-location, that might just be two offices. It could be as few as two. But what we'll tend to find is we see a lot of agents will have a contact page and they'll have the address for their offices listed on there. What ultimately happens is you're not creating relevancy really for any specific area. Yes, you might be generically within a county or within a city or whatever it be. Um, but what you need to be doing is really identifying those key areas that you cover and making it clear to the search engines that you've got a presence in those areas. Yes, you might cover areas within a radius of that, but when you start with that radius around your branches, for example, um, if that's the first point of saying to Google, look, we're very, very big in this area, then the next stage is you need to demonstrate expertise on your local area. Now, your agents or, our clients' agents will go out, or the good agents will go out and they'll give advice on schools and, catchment areas and, networks and, like, I don't know, like your motorways and that kind of stuff. They'll have that, but we need to be demonstrating that to search engines because that's what helps us increase our market share. So we do that in the form of local area guides. So we'll talk about things like the hospitals, the connections from a roads perspective, schools, and all the sort of local history as well. And what that does is again that expertise that your representatives may demonstrate when they're sitting in front of a client, we're then taking that and we're demonstrating it to the search engines, which ultimately makes that search engine want to rank that particular branch in the area that it covers. And this is one thing as well, because Rightmove will 9 times out of 10 dominate most search results. So they'll be number one.
Yeah.
When you're hyper localized and you can really drill into your branches and optimize those branch pages, you'll be surprised. We've got clients that sit above it or sit directly underneath, which isn't a bad place to be.
And I think the other point is I think it's not just hard sell either. So if
No.
your approach is that you're actually delivering value about a local area that somebody's interested in, you're you don't only come across as more professional, and I think the term local expert has been used to death in our
Yeah.
industry, but the truth is that's what it comes down to. But it's Chris Watkins spends hours talking about this, but people are, if you want to get someone's attention, the name of the place that they live in or the name of the place that they want to live in is the one thing that kind of drives them towards you. And I suppose using that as the hook rather than just simply, we want to value your house,
Yeah.
that's a better way to generate business, isn't it?
100%. So we've got a particular client in West London, a company called Halton Garden, and we've done a lot with area guides and a lot on it. And they're actually almost viewed as a bit of a news portal for the local area. And it's amazing, like if you search some of their local areas like that they're in, they literally cut just for the city name, they're like number three, or just for the area name that they're in. And what that does for those guys is it really does demonstrate that expertise and it really has that brand awareness. And as a result of that, their market share is significantly increased. Like, I mean, they've gone from it was about 3% to about 14% in around an 18-month window. And it is about that demonstrating expertise. Because again, we go out and we all talk about it, and we're all experts in our own field individually. Let's face it, it's hard work, it's time consuming to put it down online.
Yeah.
But when you get it, the value, it's invaluable ultimately.
And I think sometimes I think the difficulty we've had as agents is trying to pin an ROI
Yeah.
on the spend that we put into things like social and effectively our advertising, our marketing and that sort of thing. You have got some very impressive statistics. I mean, I'm just going to read some of them aloud, just because they kind of blew my socks off. But you can perhaps give us some background around it. There are some wonderful things that you do in terms of your reporting suite so that people can actually see the marketing metrics in one place and actually sort of gauge their performance so that ROI becomes something that is definable in terms of what you're delivering for them. And yes, they get that help of the dedicated account manager, but I was surprised to sort of see that investing in this has led on the whole for most of the agents that you represent a 2 to 3 times valuation request increase over a 6 month period. So that's a significant boost. So whatever I'm doing today, if I came along to you and invested in this, I could possibly, up to triple the amount of requests that come my way.
And yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And it's about a lot of that is about creating that confidence in the brand and those buyer signals. But that is genuinely what we're doing. It's ultimately, what we try to do is a lot of people report on their marketing strategies, if you like whether it be leaflets, social media, PPC, SEO. They'll report on them individually, which is obviously you need sort of, but like what I said earlier about the marketing mix is when you bring it all together collectively, you can actually track how your social media may have led to a conversion via PPC or vice versa, or it may have been a leaflet that encouraged someone to actually search the website and then come back via an organic search, But one thing that we do as well is we get really into the detail of the agency. So a lot of agencies have a lot of key metrics that they don't really sing about. Again, they might take a handout or give it to people during the meetings, but people need to see that information before they even contact you, right? They don't need to, if we're waiting till we get to sit in front of them to share all of this great information that shows where the agent they should be working with, we want that to be a reason for him to inquire, not for him to go, oh, that's a nice surprise. I've got you as one
Yeah.
of three. I didn't realize that, you know, your reduced rate on like on valuation. So if you estimate a property to be X amount of money, your reduction rate is less than 90%, or whatever it be. It's like, or it's not, it's 92%. Or not reduced, by the way, that
Yeah.
is. And there's loads of great metrics that we have with clients. We're like, well, we need to be putting this out there. And when you put this out there into your marketing and into your assets, it sort of makes another valuation sort of let us value your property post or advert for whatever you want to call it. It makes it something that's a bit more. I really need to be speaking to these guys, right? Because so many people now are having the issues with properties having to be relisted,
Yeah.
sales falling through,
Overvaluing, yeah, all that sort of
overvaluing,
stuff. Yeah.
overvaluing to secure to get the deal on. We know how it is. And they're key things. Like we work with a lot of good agents, and some of our agents got just when we look at like their figures, we're like, well, we need to be putting this out there. And as soon as we start putting that out there, it's amazing how it can just amplify this up. Honestly, we call it with a lot of agents, we call it like we're always like hero campaigns. Like they
Yeah.
think we're amazing. I'll be honest, we're always very transparent. A lot of it is we're just connecting the dots, right? A lot of agents are very active. A lot of agents do a lot of great work. It's just they just don't know how
It's
to.
about elevating that to
Yeah,
where somebody can
exactly
see
that.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we get to amplify it. It's when the most difficult sales or the difficult sales for us, i.e., to promote, is when you've got an agent who literally does nothing. They're sitting in a service office, which is, there's plenty out there, and they're looking to increase their market share. We'll go, okay, well, we're starting from a standing point. That's where it's a bit more of a slog.
Yeah.
But
It is a
you
hard slog, but on the other hand, it's also easier for you
oh,
to assess because if you're hovering around zero now, you
well.
see results. When you start to see the results, they're so much more meaningful.
Exactly that. So, and this is why it's important to get into the data. But what we also do is we do demystify a lot of the stuff. We don't get very techy on guys. We know it's like the agents want to know how many instructions they've got this month. How many inquiries did we get that led to instructions, so we can make sure the quality was right. And the rest of it is kind of neither here nor there. So what we do is we keep it very top level for them. So if we sit there and start bamboozling them with data and schema and all jargon, then they just switch off. Ultimately, how are we going to get you more properties, guys? How are we going to get you listed more? And that's ultimately what we all want.
And that's where that sort of account management is quite important as well, because you've got a human being that can
Yeah.
tell you what's working and what's not working. I am going to come back to your stats in a minute because I've got quite an important question to ask you. But before we do that, in terms of agents that might be watching this and want to learn a little bit more, um, your flexibility as well, I think, is probably what makes it most suitable for small businesses because we don't know what's coming to us next month, the month after. But you're building solutions that basically can suit big businesses, but also your average Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. So ultimately, we've always operated. I've always believed in this anyway. It's always been a bit of a mantra. I mean, I've had my agency for around 14 years, but first, we work on a rolling monthly basis, and the reason that we do that is because we know how things can fluctuate for agents and for all our clients in general. And the reality is, we don't need to hide behind contracts. We don't need to get someone to really take that leap of faith,
Yeah,
because it is risky. And it's nerve-wracking because if it doesn't work, you could be tied to something for 6, maybe even 12 months. We work on that rolling monthly basis solely because if you're happy, you're not going to go nowhere, right? If you're getting valuations and survey requests and lots of landlords coming through your doors, then everything's going to be an economy of scale. Everything grows as your returns grow. And, during the tough times, we've helped agents knowing where we've gone, okay, we'll scale back and we'll advise people, go, well, these are the areas that we think you could possibly cut back for a month or two. And then that way, while wait for a few completions to go through or whatever it is you need to get back on that. But particularly with the smaller agents, we work very, very flexibly because they need that ability to be
Yeah,
able
they
to
do.
push at the right times and also tighten the reins if they need be.
No, I think that would be that's very comforting, sort of from a smaller business perspective. But the questions that I wanted to ask you, I just wanted to ask whether or not you made a typo on the form that you sent in to us because the stat is huge. I think I can mention the agency name, but I think you were acting for Balgores and you increased organic reach by 6,800%. Am I reading that correct? Because it made my head explode a bit.
Yeah. So what I will say about the irony about Balgores is I've probably been working with Balgores for 11 years now. So I've had a long run up to get to that
Yeah.
point. Don't get me wrong. And they're great guys. So a prime example are Balgores, and I think you actually got a video testimonial from them for us, haven't
Yeah,
you?
great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've worked with Balgores for about 11 years. I attend their quarterly meetings. And they're a great example of an agent. So when we started working with those guys, I think they had about 5 or 6 branches. They're up at around 12 to 13 now, and great company to work with. But what's also important with them is when we go on our quarterly meetings, we get involved with all of their different marketing, like I say, their direct marketing, their email marketing. We'll also get involved if they're doing any leaflet distributions, a bit of SMS stuff as well. And the reason we do that, not through a control, but all of those channels need to be talking to each other. We need to know what's going out for all of us. Like they need to know what we're doing. We need to know what we're doing. And it's really, really worked for those guys. It has led to that stat. That stat is actually correct. And that's down to, I've got to say, Balgores take as much credit of that as what we do because they're a great person to work there. Again, they invest based on their returns.
Yep.
And it is, and one of the things that I will say without talking out of turn, that we do spend, we know times get tough in the property market, and we're probably experience a bit of that now, but they're kind of what we see is the people that pull back from their marketing, which is natural because it's an unnecessary expense, but they're the ones that continue to show. The ones that push or keep pushing, they're the ones who tend to benefit in those tough times because competition drops. Other agents stop marketing. So if you stay constant, you all of a sudden you start to get that much more exposure. Your percentage of
Yep.
exposure goes up. And ultimately, what businesses, yes, you might, being brutally honest, you might have to spend a bit more to stay at the same level, but you want to stay at the same level, right? We, like all businesses, we go through peaks and we go through those slightly down times.
We could have a whole other discussion about
Yeah,
algorithms and about what happens to those once you disappear. Because you
yeah,
take, like you say, you take your foot off the accelerator a bit, and then particularly on platforms such as LinkedIn, for instance, you don't post on there, you're not showing up anymore, and you kind of disappear, and that's why you tend to see more content from certain people than others, and it in this kind of digital world, I think it pays to be doing something all the time
yeah.
rather than sort of the mistake that people sometimes make is saying, well, we'll put him back altogether. Aaron Estates, I think, were another one that I had a chat with and they gave a great testimonial for as well. But they increased their valuations by 21% and improved their keyword ranking by 82%. That keyword ranking is not as easy to improve as people think, right?
No, again, I mean, without talking, that was a prime example. Again, hyper localized, so they have a lot of branches across their group.
Yeah,
And one of the things, as soon as we went in, that we just identified they never had dedicated branch pages, no area guides. So we just really, really drilled down on that. We looked at the areas that were struggling most, and we worked back up through, and obviously aligned that with their areas of priority. Um, and yeah, we optimized those and pushed those, and it just had such a big impact. And one thing I'll say as well is the bigger your website is, the easier it is to take that market share from a digital perspective.
yeah,
So a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want a lot of pages on my website, it's a lot to maintain. but your website's essentially like a nice book, if you like, or a nice brochure. The more, obviously, the more properties you've got on there, the more Google thinks you're relevant. But ultimately, the more information about the areas you cover, what you do, even about house prices in the area, or even new developments, those types of things. These are all things that gives Google confidence. It says anyone searching within that local area of yours, they should be, they're going to get a good experience by coming to your website.
They always say that success leaves clues. And I think the one place you want to leave as many clues as possible is all over your website. Because let's face it, I mean, we've mentioned Rightmove on this call and the portals,
Yeah,
etc. But you have no direct control over the content on there. The one thing
exactly.
you do have direct control over is what you put out on your own website. And you might as well pepper it with as much of that kind of what you're good at, what's
Yeah,
relevant to your audience, and also what you're successful with.
yeah.
Because I think that really does get them picked up by Google effectively when it's trawling and it's putting together all of these different clues about this is what makes them worth talking to.
Well, you might have seen it now yourself, David. Like a lot of people are now doing, or a lot of agents are doing podcasts.
Yeah,
I know three that are doing podcasts in particular, like locally to me. I know them very well. And again, this is all down to these are all signals, and Google's looking at it going, okay, these guys are, and, it's like I could probably say the same with digital marketing. It's like, how exciting could a digital marketing podcast be? Really, to anyone other than, I
yeah,
don't even know who might find it interesting, but and even down to property. If you're in the market, then yes, it's interesting. But the search engines really like that content, and they're obviously publishing that on YouTube and they're putting that through to their websites. And these are all different platforms that Google's starting to see the brand, which is ultimately elevating it. And when it all comes down to it, what the whole objective of everything, when we strip it all back, is more valuation requests, more landlords, more vendors, more properties to bring to market. And that's key. And one other thing as well that we're doing a lot of now, and we're obviously seeing it a lot more with these AI overviews coming
yeah,
into the search results. We've been bringing that in for quite a while for our clients and making sure that the content we shape and we publish on our clients' websites is friendly for the AI overviews to pick them up, because sometimes now you're not even getting a click on your website because people are getting that information from that
yeah.
snippet.
They're getting that snapshot via ChatGPT or whatever else they're
Exactly.
using for
And
searching. Yeah,
we're actually marketing a lot more now for, and I'm actually doing quite a few talks on it at the moment, but we're seeing more people using AI to search for agents,
yeah,
suppliers.
yeah,
We had our first inquiry a couple of months ago from a gentleman. This was what's even more surprising. The gentleman was 72 years of age. He had two established estate agents. He had two location branches. And he searched on an AI app called Perplexity. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it, but it's a great tool. Um, and he said, yeah, I searched digital marketing agency for estate agents in the Essex area. And he said, you guys come up number one. And I was like, wow. And now what astounded me even more was this gentleman was 72 years of age using AI to search on a platform that, so you've got to be also not only like, covering everything now, but what's coming next. And this is the thing, the AI side of it is really important. That's things that we just factor into our
yeah.
monthly go-to service, because
Got
you've got to
that.
keep evolving the strategy.
No, that is so clear. Well, it's great because you guys are experts on that the same way that I'm experts on selling houses.
Yeah.
So these are the people that you want to be talking to. They're very nice, open and approachable, and I've always found them very professional. But look, I speak to agents who are there to give testimonials, but genuinely, it's the stuff that gets said off camera that sometimes counts a bit more, and sometimes people feel like they've been strong-armed into sort of saying, giving these testimonials. Not at all in the case of FSE Digital. Everybody I've spoken to has been really sort of enthusiastic, both off camera and also on camera. So, absolute credit to you and your team and the way that you
Thank you.
you do things. Danny, thank you very much for your time today.
No problem, David. Thank you. Take care.